My name is Jamie with MyTarot.org, and I'm actually starting this video over again. This time I am going to try and keep my enthusiasm down, because I have this wonderful book that I just got from Phoenixville. There's a wonderful little bookstore, privately owned bookstore on the main drag in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. This little tiny town about that big. And they had this book in here. It just came out the end of last year. It's called The History of Tarot Art, Demystifying the Art and Arcana, Deck by Deck by Holly Adams Easley and Esther Joy Archer. And it comes in this really nice slipcover case. And they were kind enough to unwrap it for me so I could take a look at it. And the first thing I saw once I unwrapped it, okay, I love tarot history. Me and Michael across the street over there, we have our podcast, our streamcast here on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, The Two of Wands, where we have already covered all the art history of all the trump cards. We've done all the majors, and now we're moving on to the pips and the numbered cards. So we've already gone through all that, and I just eat it up, okay? So I get this book, and then I look at it, and I'm seeing the cover, and I see that it's got all these modern decks on here. So I'm like, great. So I've got the Kaplan encyclopedias, and I've got the Techen Tarot, and I've got all these art books. Love art books, but they always are just throwing out all the modern art, all the modern texts, which I have over 100 decks. I love that. That's fine. More power to us, right? So, great. But they have the Marseille here, and they have the Visconti. So I open up the book, and it was a joy. So right down from the introduction, where they are actually giving a factual history of the tarot as they're talking about it, and how culturally and how we've historically, prehistorically, have had this desire to understand the unknown, and that the tarot is just another extension of that. And as they're going through, they have really nice documentation from history. So here's some people playing a card game. This one doesn't show any trumps or anything, so they're playing the original before the trumps came along. You just had the four suits, and that is from 1520s right there. And so again, the introduction's nice, and then they start going into the history, and they do a really nice job documenting the Visconti tarot. And they move on, so they bring up the Carrie Yale right now. Also, here is to show that from the Visconti and from that, they were, the Visconti was a vanity deck. And I'm going to not go into art history. I'm telling myself. The Visconti was like a vanity deck where they were hand painted for the rich. And then along comes a card maker who then does a wood block so that they can mass produce cards. And so the Carrie Yale, here's one of the first ones we have of showing the cards as wood blocks. And again, so here we have some people in the Visconti family, and it starts covering, and it pulls up other art as it's discussing it. Here's the Visconti deck, and they start going through more about that and heraldry and wonderful things. And then they start moving on to the Solobuska, which I really love the way that they detail it. So if you notice, that looks a lot like the Three of Hearts from Pamela Coleman Smith's The Rider-Waite Smith deck. That's because this card was in the British Museum, and Pamela Coleman Smith went there and copied the cards. She made copies of them for the Rider-Waite, and you can see the heavy influence. And this book does a wonderful job of showing that heavy influence also. So they go into art history again. They show some more of the art and all this wonderful stuff. But where's it at? Again, Solobuska. And here, she starts showing where in the Solobuska, she's getting the ideas for the deck that we come to know and love. So she's taken the deck from, what was this Solobuska? 15, what? You know what? It's not a history lesson. It's an old deck. And so she copied from that. And she does a really wonderful job of showing that. And then she starts going into the Marseille, which is awesome. And the different ones and comparing them. Again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going through all that because there's no need, right? She goes into the history, and some of it she touches onto the occult. She moves on to the 17 and 1800s, where the esoteric ideas and the occultism kicks in for the cards, and where it becomes reading, fortune telling, astrology gets attached to it, and the concept, thanks to de Gebelin, that the cards are originally of an Egyptian origin, and I'm not touching that one. Read the book. So here she's also showing some of the modern Marseille styles. And so, I'm only on page 65 here. Then we move into, we're in the 20th century. We're looking at some of the decks that were popping up in the 20th century. And she's got the Thoth here, which was Crowley's. And then she starts pulling up other decks. And I'm just going to skip ahead because what she does with the modern decks is she treats it with the same respect, historically, that you do with the other decks, the older decks. So she's looking at some of these decks. And so when they're created, the time periods are created, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yeah, who were the influences? What was the culture around at the time when these were created? So it makes it really interesting because when you understand, when you're looking at the time period of when some of these were created and the influences, it really makes even the modern decks look just as interesting when looking at it in the context of, here we are comparing this King of Wands here to Sean Connery or Gregory Peck. It's a time period. The cards get made. So it's really, I'm just going to have to stop gushing about this book because it really is a book that I find to be super interesting, whether it's discussing the history of the original history of the tarot, or if it's discussing modern history of the tarot. And so also in the back of the book here, ta-da, she also gives us some of the Solobuskas so that we can actually see and hold some of the older original cards that Pamela Coleman Smith was inspired by. So, a wonderfully well put together book. One that I can highly recommend and say that if you're interested in the art and the history, both modern and original 1600, where they came from, etc., then I think this is a wonderful book. And apparently they also have, because inside here was a little insert, and the insert says, guided by Holly Adam Easley and Esther Joy Archer, hosts of the popular Wildly Tarot podcast. This deluxe collector's book provides a fresh, and it goes on. So apparently, though, I'm going to check out, I haven't had time yet, but the Wildly Tarot podcast. Definitely want to check that out. And otherwise, I think this is a fabulous book. And this definitely, as I am making more of the live streams and I'm doing more things like that, I'll definitely be referencing this, pulling the pictures from this for any of the other stuff that I might be doing. So, and I can say that I compare this, that I'm enjoying this as much as I enjoy Letitia's book. So, the Tarot and Divination. So, I mean, I do have all these. Yeah. Oh, what else do I have here? Here's the Tetchin. So, I do collect. But some of the books I would not say are my favorites. I can say that I'd already done a review of this one here. The Tarot and Divination Cards, a Visual Archive. This is one of my ultimate favorites. And I can say that this one here is another one that has become one of my favorites. So, with that, I didn't go too much in the history. I didn't spend an hour talking about where the Visconti came from, so I'm proud of myself. And with that, if you have anything that you would like to see reviewed or talk about, again, if you go to the MyTarot.org channel, and you can find links for it at MyTarot.org on the website, or just type in MyTarot.org into YouTube, and I will pop up. So, and there's hundreds of videos. So I do a daily reading every day, morning meditation type thing. So please feel free to drop in, say hi, and also go to the Facebook page and drop in and say hi. Which again, if you go to mytarot.org, or if you look at the About page on my channel, you'll see a link to the Facebook page for the mytarot.org, where we have wonderful conversations. So, with that, thank you very much, and I hope you have an amazing day, an amazing week. I hope everything just works out amazing for you. So thank you very much.